Good evening. Thank you for staying to the bitter end so you can hear me do my presentation. My name is Todd Burgess. I'm going to be talking about a library that you've probably heard. Some of you are using it, some of you are not, called Dagger 2. Hopefully after this chat you're going to be thinking a little more seriously about using it. Just a quick show of hands, how many people are actually using Dagger 2? Alright, how many people have looked at Dagger 2, got really confused and gave up? Yeah, you're out there, yeah. All right, so just sort of just a little disclaimer. It's a little intimidating at first, but if, it's not that hard to figure out. So this is sort of a very quick overview of what's involved. So basically, just to get a cheap and dirty definition of dependency injection. Dependency injection is basically giving an object its instance variables. Case in point, here we have a class A. You see it also depends on class B. We have two constructors, one's in red, one's in yellow. The first one, red, A constructs its dependency, creates a new instance of B. The second constructor takes an instance of B, and then it sets the dependency to B. The one in yellow is just, that's dependency injection right there, because an object is not creating its instance, it's being handed to it. It's what's also referred to as the inversion of control, or as a friend of mine called it, the inversion of confusion. Basically, introduction to Dagger 2. Dagger 2 is a library that manages dependency injection in our Android applications. Dagger 2 is made by Google, and it's a fork of Dagger 1 that was done by Square. Here we have just two basic activities that are sharing shared preferences. That's designed to get the name. The one instance you see two is both activities are using the same code, but in two different places. The problem, sort of with the example there, is we're creating two objects where there only needs to be one. As well, the code is duplicated across two activities. This example you see in red, where release, we've changed the file name using for shared preferences, because so now what's happened is you have object, so it's going to break because they're both looking at two different files. If only there's a way to solve this, what if we could just pull out the shared preferences creation code? So basically what we're looking for is on the left, we have two shared preferences instances, each in their own activities. And then the one on the right is the ideal solution. We have one shared preference that's being shared among the two activities. So basically, how do we do this? It's Dagger 2 to the rescue. We have two applications, application B and application A. Basically, they're the two activities, pardon me, are don't actually run in the same process. The same process is represented by an application. The application runs Dagger 2 to create the shared preferences and inject into the activities. Basically, Dagger 2 in a nutshell, we're going to create modules to provide the dependencies, create components to link modules to activities and frameworks, create the component instance in the application and inject dependencies into the activities framework. I just did a cheap and dirty application here. There's a link on the GitHub. It's MIT2 license. Go nuts with it, do what you want. Basically, what Android library do you love? Submit it, and the second library says, great, you love. And it does it through shared preferences. This is the plumbing. I'll go through really quickly. We added Gradle Dependencies. This is all in the example. You can see it. We need to create an app module to provide the dependencies. We annotate the class with a module annotation at the top in the red. At the bottom in the purple, you'll see the method that's actually providing the shared preferences. We have it annotated saying provides the shared preferences. Singleton means there will only be one instance of our shared preferences. If we want to change the file name from example to release, we only have to change it in this one spot because it'll be affected across both applications are using it. The component is what links those modules to our code. We have two, so we have an interface. We have two methods called inject, one for the greeting activity, number one for the love activity. The component line there specifies where it gets the dependencies from. How does it actually work? Well, that's the magic of the annotation processor, because Dagger 2 figures this all out at compile time. So this is the point before we move forward. You need to rebuild your project, and the annotation processor can create all the code. We will need to create an application. The code in red, we didn't actually write. That is the stuff that will be generated by the annotation processor. So if you try implementing that code without rebuilding your code, it won't exist. It's usually the first thing you'll hit when you try to figure out Dagger 2. And then we have a demo component. There'll just be one. in the application, and then we have a method below that returns the component. So, and the other little thing too, I don't know if any of you worked with the application before, but you'll need down a little line into your Android manifest, android.name.demo application, which tells the app we're not using the default application, we're going to use our own. And then this is sort of where the magic happens. We annotate the shared preferences here with an inject annotation. And then in the onCreate, we have this magic line here. We get application, which is going to return an application, but we're going to cast it to demo application, which will then use our get component method to call the inject method on the interface and inject this instance of the application. And now we're free to use shared preferences in this object, or this activity. We'll now be using the shared preferences that was created in Dagger 2. Similarly, the next activity in the line, what I call the love activity because I didn't want to call it, is going to be using the same line, and both activities are using the same shared preferences. Now, because if you're using Kotlin, say it works for Kotlin, except add the little late init to your var, basically adding late init when you do inject tells to avoid null checks for dependency injected fields with late init. Now, I promised you a kitten. Here's a kitten. This is Argo. He's a kitten who's currently available for adoption at Toronto Cat Rescue, because I should warn you as well, I'm a volunteer at Toronto Cat Rescue. So how do we do this? Well, just a little thing. I don't know anybody uses retrofit, but if you ever have to do a REST server, don't try to write your own JSON processing code. Get the retrofit library, which is really great. You just tell it what data you want, it queries the server, gets it back, and then creates POJOs. It's a suite. I don't know if I know there's some people here who haven't heard of it before, that's why I just stuck it in the slide. Because here's an app that I've done, which basically there's a site called Adopt-a-Pet that provides all this REST data of all the cats available currently for adoption. All the cats you see in the left-hand side here are currently available for adoption, including our kitten Argo, which you see here. We can click on Argo in the app and we can get a little more information on Argo. So how does it work actually in my application? Well, actually what happens is I use Dagger 2. This is actually an oversimplified, what actually will get referred to as a dependency graph. So I have two applications, one that lists the cats available and another one that will give you more information on the cats. Because it's the same REST site that needs to be hit and the same retrofit code. Basically the retrofit code exists in a Dagger 2. I've actually kind of oversimplified it here because I'm actually using in this app, I'm actually using an MVP framework, and I totally create my MVP framework for the two applications using Dagger 2, which any of you have seen the MVP framework, that quite often say, oh, you should be doing your models and your presenters in Dagger 2. Well, this is one of the ways you can put it together. So, basically, just sort of in conclusion here, Dagger 2, the big thing here, allows you to focus more on writing code instead of maintaining it. Instead of having all your code sort of scattered throughout your code base in various spots, we can move it all up into one common repository and let Dagger 2 figure out how to make all the code and where it all goes. And then Dagger 2, one of the big applications I alluded to with Dagger 2 is we can use it for assisting in testing, app frameworks, such as MVP. For instance, you can create test code for test code, like you can create mocks and other things, and then inject them into using Dagger 2 into your test framework. Like for instance, if you're doing network calls or something like that. And I just want to say finally as well, adopt a Toronto Cat Rescue cat. I'm putting in a shameless plug because I promised you some cat. This is Alex. She's a 1-year-old female. I'm actually a store coordinator at Big Al's in Scarborough, and I'm responsible for this cat. So I thought, hey, why not? I have a captive audience. Why don't I'll show you how great she is and maybe get some interest. So, sort of wrap up. Those are just some links or whatever I have here, just so people are aware. This whole slide presentation is actually on SlideShare. So I'll be posting the link to the Meetup group as well. If you want to actually check out the code for that little app, you can actually see how Dagger 2 was all put together. I actually took the time and trouble and commented the code, so you can follow along. And that's about it. Thanks again for all your time. And if you have any questions about Dagger 2, I'll take those. And also I do adoption counseling for trauma card rescue, so I can do cat questions as well. Thanks. Yes?
If I wanted a immutable class level property, right? I need to use the final keyword.
Yeah.
But can I use final for a property that is being injected through retrofit?
Through retrofit?
Oh, sorry, I mean through
Dagger? Basically, what you're doing, you have they again do scope instances. For instance, you can do custom, like basically with you can do either activity or Singleton basically is an application level scope. At the same application, you can do. Some people, for instance, do. You can scope it as activity. You can do your own custom scopes. I don't know if this is answering sort of what you're getting at, but
I just meant that. Say you have your presenter, right?
Yeah.
And you want it as the presenter of it as a class level property. So you say private, my presenter. So can I use the final keyword there so that it's immutable?
No.
If I say I inject my presenter, can I use the final keyword with it?
I don't believe so. The other thing too, I believe too, is it can't be private. I believe for Dagger 2, your fields have to be protected. So.
You don't care about that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, in your module, you could declare a final variable and just provide that variable.
Yeah. Although typically, final, you just make it single. Make it a singleton. Declare it as a singleton, and you'll only have the one instance of it. But you got to make sure if you're making it a singleton in Dagger 2, it's thread safe. Any more? Well, thanks again. I hope I get you thinking about using Dagger 2 in your applications.